Hi, caregiver community. We will be talking about how to communicate with either your loved one or care partner, whichever one you prefer to call them, and or family members. Today is part one with family members, but we will be going into a part two with our care partners who do not have dementia. So, this is called nonviolent communication, and it is a way to get what you need and want in a way that works for both of you without the conflict and the arguments and the anger and the resentment and the blame and the shame and the guilt and all of that. So, here we go. So, what we want to do, by the way, is have the benefits of what's called nonviolent communication. And that is based on Marshall Rosenberg, his theory that he developed of nonviolent communication with four components that I'm going to go over today to make it practical for you. It takes practice, but it's not hard to remember. So, the benefits are fostering healthy relationships between you and either your care partner or loved one, and also your family members. As I said, to decrease the frustration, anger, resentment, guilt, shame, blame, and everything else. Bring more peace and harmony into your life so you have some freedom to think, and ask for what you need and get it in a way that is mutually supportive to all those involved when at all possible. And it builds healthy relationships by establishing boundaries. Boundaries are not to disconnect people, but to connect people to have healthy relationships. So, as I said, today is part one, and we will be doing communicating with your family members. So I want you to take a look at this. It's the communication, nonviolent communication, and there are four steps, and hopefully you can see it. Observation, feelings, needs, and requests. Now, I have already put this in an email to you, but it will be in the Family Caregiver Community private Facebook group. So if you missed the email, you can just go in there, join the group, and go in there and get it, and it will be under files. So you'll always have it. That's what we're going to go over today. The first thing is I'm going to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, think of something that's really challenging for you that kind of triggers you. Maybe pick a 5 or less because you're not used to doing this, and we want you to get used to it. Again, it takes some practice, but so something that really triggers you. And as I'm going through each of the steps and I'm explaining it, you can go through your scenario and how you would do it. Again, I will give an example for myself that I have used before. So the first one is observe. What do I mean by observe? I mean, in that moment, observe the situation as objective as possible. If you were looking down rather than actually involved in it, you were looking at the movie screen rather than being in it, because when you're in it, you're caught in it. So you be as objective as possible, and you say, what I'm noticing is, or when I hear you say, right? That way you're being as objective as possible about what the scenario is. It's not objective if you say as if like that, or I feel ignored. Well, ignored is a thought. It's not really a feeling and an assessment and a judgment. Or if you're using pronouns like I, you, she, that kind of means that you're not really being objective. Or if you're using, names and nouns, Sally always does this. When you do this, that makes me angry, or whatever. That's putting the other person defensive already. Okay. The second is, so the first one is observe objectively. The second one is feelings and emotions. So you're saying, okay, I have I've objectively identified or recognized the situation, and what are my feelings and emotions based on that, based on the objectives of it. So you say, I'm feeling. When I hear you say, I am feeling, okay? Now, thoughts and judgments are not feelings and emotions. If you say, I feel ignored or underappreciated, that is a thought and an evaluation. That's not the emotion. There's something underneath that that we want to get to, because that's the rawness, that's the vulnerability of it. That's what you're really feeling. So, for example, if you're feeling, you know, rather than saying I feel ignored or underappreciated, maybe you're feeling hurt or exhausted. Okay. Sometimes we don't even have the words to put to it. So sometimes you can even go to your bodily sensations. The shoulders are tight, the neck is tight, you have a knot in your stomach. Start with that and just let that be. Usually the word will then come to you. I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, or whatever it may be. So that's the second one. The third is, what are your needs? Based on, here's the third, what are your needs? Based on your feelings and emotions rather than your judgments or accusations. What is it that you need? Not what the other person needs. What is it that you need? So you can say, what I'm needing is, and again, what's underneath that feeling or emotion. So the needs could be because you're exhausted, you need rest, or you may need support. Those are the needs that you would have. Now, how do we identify our needs? And I go into this much more deeply during the conscious caregiving immersion program that I give, but I'm just going to give you a few things right here. The first is, you've all heard of Maslow's hierarchy, or many of us have, where, first we have our physical needs all the way up to love, right? But our needs are not in isolation. They're always in relationship, because we cannot survive without other human beings. Even if we've been alone, we cannot survive by ourselves. Even getting the food in the grocery store, there was a whole chain to get that food there. So we are always in relationship. So we are in relationship with community. Perhaps we need support where we get together and we can we have other people who understand what we're going through. And community, sometimes it takes a tribe or a community to care for people and to care for ourselves. Sometimes, number two, we need belonging. So it might be appreciation, mutual respect, trust, love. Number three, it might be safety that we need. So it may be not just physical, but emotional safety, physical, emotional, energetic, all the things that we need to take care of ourselves. It may just be surviving, right? Just surviving physical safety. That's number four. Number five would be self-actualization or self-worth, or I'm enough, or, I can live to my fullest, into my fullest potential. And number six is our relationship with the earth. And here on earth, maybe taking walks in nature, um, making sure our earth is still here, being the stewardship of it, because we are in relationship with the earth. So those are our basic needs rather than Maslow's hierarchy. And I call them, they're co-occurring needs, because it's not that you need your physical safety first and then you get love. All of these can happen simultaneously or in combination. So it's number one, community; number two, belonging; number three, safety; number four, physical survival; number five, self-actualization; and number six, relationship with the earth and the community and the environment within which we live. So we went through observing. Okay, number one of nonviolent communication. Number 2 was identifying our feelings and emotions. Number 3 was recognizing and starting to communicate what our needs are. And number 4, and last but not least, is making requests, not demands, because you may have a boundary, and this will help you set up your boundaries for self care. Again, boundary is not about disconnection, it's about connection, so that everybody understands where everybody's coming from. So even if it's a non negotiable boundary, it's still a request because someone can say no. Okay. So what you say is, based on everything else, what I'm requesting or wanting is, or would you be willing to? But there's two things that you're going to look at. You're going to look at connection, because the one side of the formula is looking at what we're observing, what we're feeling, what we're needing, and what we're requesting. But we're also taking a look at what the other person is perceiving, what they are feeling, what they are needing, and what they may want, request. Okay. And that's the compassion piece of it. So it's a two-way street, even if the other person can't give it back to you. So, okay, so the requests is two things about a request is that connection. So you might say, how are you feeling when I say that I need appreciation? Okay. And, or what's the main thing you heard me say, just to make sure they're on the same page as you. And then comes the action or the strategy. What I'm requesting or wanting is, or would you be willing to? Many times our needs are not all that different, but the strategies and actions to get there are. And so here's an example. For example, my trigger is that I used to take care of my stepmom in my house 24/7. I did have a caregiver, a paid caregiver to help me out, but I was taking care of her 24/7, and she had mild to moderate dementia and incontinence and mobility issues. I was just trying to get through the day, okay? And her relative came, and the first thing she said to me was, her nails need to be cut. They're disgusting. Well, it was like waving a red flag in front of a bull. But I stepped back, I paused, and I stopped. And I went through this in my head. Okay, what am I observing? She came over and she saw that the nails weren't cut. What am I feeling? At first, I was feeling angry, but underneath, I needed appreciation and support. So that was my need. I was feeling just hurt, and the need was support. And the request was, I said, and I told her that. So when you say that her nails need to be cut, I feel really hurt and frustrated because I need some support and appreciation. And then I said, and how are you feeling after hearing me say this? And what's the main thing you heard me say? And she said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. And I said, are you feeling upset and sad and not in control that, that she's in this condition and you don't know what to do for her? She said, that's really it. And then I said, well, would you be willing to cut and polish her nails right now? And she said, oh, absolutely. So it was a win-win for everybody involved. Now, it doesn't always go that smoothly, but you can see how it goes. That will start to give you back your freedom, because you won't be so frustrated, and you've got compassion for yourself. And it's okay to have sometimes that knee-jerk reaction, like, oh my gosh, I see red, but then I was able to step back. So that's how to do it. In the next video, we're going to go over how to use this with your loved one or care partner who maybe is frustrating you, or it makes you angry, or you feel totally controlled or out of control, or you feel manipulated, or you feel resentful, and all of that. And for example, they they don't want to use a walker, they don't want to use a hearing aid, they don't want all the things that you need to do to keep them safe. So we will go through that on the next one. Again, you can get this sheet about nonviolent communication in the Facebook group under files, and also the needs. Here's the needs that I talked about. And you can get this sheet under files in the Facebook community of the family caregiver community. That's it for now. See you next time.